you tonight's news bulletin. But first, the headlines. His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq issues a royal decree. The tax authority issues the 3 executive decisions related to the implementation of the added value tax. And the Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries and Water Resources signs an agreement to implement the Smart Agricultural Project. Good evening once again, and thank you for joining us. Those were the headlines, and now the news in detail. His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq issues Royal Decree number 5/2021 on transfer of Muscat Securities Market to a closed Omani joint stock company in the name of the Muscat Stock Exchange Company SAOC. Article 1 establishes a closed Omani joint stock company under the name Muscat Stock Exchange Company SAOC, and its ownership reverts to the Omani Investment Authority. Article 2, all allocations asserts rights, obligations and records of the Muscat Securities Market shall devolve in the Muscat Stock Exchange Company. Article 3, employees of the Muscat Security Market shall be transferred to the company in accordance with the provisions of the privatization law. Article 4, all specializations of Muscat Securities Market listed in the law of capital market shall be devolved in Muscat Stock Exchange Company SAOC without prejudice to objects of the company stipulated in its article. Article 5, Muscat Stock Exchange Company SAOC shall practice all its activities within the provisions of the Capital Market Law and subject to monitoring and supervision of the Capital Market Authority. Muscat Stock Exchange Company SAOC shall issue regulations and decisions needed to practice its specializations and achieve its objectives, besides determines the fees for its services, and until these regulations and decisions are issued, the work shall continue with the applicable regulations and laws which shall not contradict with the provisions of this decree. Article 6, Capital Market Authority determines the general policy which Muscat Stock Exchange Company SAOC should commit and issues regulations and decisions that organizes licenses required to be granted to the company to practice its activities, and the fees should be paid for the authority. Article 7 forms a board of directors of Muscat Stock Exchange Company SAOC according to its statutes, and Capital Market Authority may object to the decision to appoint the board of directors within 15 days of being notified of the decision. Article 8, Muscat Stock Exchange Company SAOC must obtain the approval of Capital Market Authority before appointing both the Chief Executive Officer of the company and those working at senior management levels. Article 9, Oman Investment Authority shall prepare a contract for establishing Muscat Stock Exchange Company SAOC and its statutes and complete its registrations procedures according to the provisions of the company's law before the date of which this decree shall come into effect. Article 10 cancels Muscat Securities Market and all that contradict or contravenes with the provisions of this decree. Article 11, this decree shall be published in the official gazette and come into effect after 90 days from the date of its issue. The chairman of the tax authority issued the 3 executive decisions related to the implementation of the added value tax, which will come into effect on 16th of April this year. The first decision determined the mandatory registrations. By these decisions, those who are subjected to tax should register at the tax authority if their annual supply value subjected to tax exceeded 38,500 Omani Rials. The second decisions related to dates of registrations for the added value tax for those subject to the tax shall provide their request to the tax authority. The decision took into account the gradual registrations of those subjects to the tax according to the volume of their annual supplies, aiming to give small and medium-sized enterprises the suitable time to organize and qualify their systems and mechanisms of reserving currency notes and bills, as they will be able to commit with added value tax laws requirements. The third decision determined commodities that are exempted from added value tax, including the list of 94 items of the customs tariffs to which this exemption would be applied. The Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Water Resources signed an agreement to lease a plot of land with an area of 100 acres with the Agriculture and Fisheries Development Company to invest and implement the Smart Agriculture project in the Wilaya of Al Kamil and Al Wafi at a cost of more than 6 million Omani Riyals. The project aims to increase the productivity of various vegetable crops, extend their production seasons and raise the quality and safety of local production. The project will serve Omani youth who are investing in the integrated agriculture project in the Wilaya of Al Kamil and Al Wafi, which the ministry adopted during the last period in terms of providing electricity and water services and providing technical and marketing assistance to achieve agricultural production. The agreement was signed by His Excellency Dr. Saud bin Mahmoud Al-Habsi, Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries, Wealth and Water Resources, and Abdullah bin Mohammed Al-Siabi, Director General of the Agricultural and Fisheries Development Company. You're watching the Sultanate of Oman television, and yet to come in our news bulletin. London Zoo's annual stock take takes place behind closed doors. Once again, welcome to the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. The Sultanate is working on the genetic analysis of the new coronavirus strain after registering the first positive case in a resident who came from the United Kingdom. The experts in virus studies clarify that the new strain is fast in terms of spreading, and it is still not proven whether it is more ferocious. Meanwhile, researchers in Sultan Qaboos University and the Central Health Laboratories were able to see the results of the genome analysis of COVID-19 as studies continue regarding the new coronavirus strain. The health institutions in the wilayas of Samail and Bidbid in the governorate of Dakhliya continue the vaccination campaigns for the prioritized categories, including elderly and those with chronic diseases. The interactions of the citizens with the vaccinations campaigns is going well so far as are concerned about the health and safety of their families and the members of the community. The citizens that have taken the vaccine encourage others to contribute in spreading the awareness on the safety of the vaccine so as to help the bodies concerned in the combat against the pandemic, which will reflect positively on the return of life back to normal. A seminar was held in the Wilaya of Wadi al-Ma'awili in the governorate of South al-Batin on the significance of taking the COVID-19 vaccines to limit the spread of the pandemic. It shed light on the safety of the vaccine, pointing out that no health implications were reported among those who were vaccinated. The first phase of the national immunization campaign targets those working in the front lines, elderly and people with chronic diseases. The virtual forum on blended education and electronic security was organized by the Director General of Education in the Governorate of Al-Zahira in cooperation with the Minister of Education, Sultan Qaboos University, and the Electronic Security Academy. The forum witnessed a wide participation from those working in the education field, including supervisors and school principals and their assistants. It shed light on a number of topics such as electronic education platforms and modern technology used in this field. Internationally, novel coronavirus has killed nearly 1.87 million people since last December 2019. At least 86.4 million cases of coronavirus have been registered. Of these, at least 54 million are now considered recovered. Yesterday, 15,769 new deaths and 759,669 new cases were recorded worldwide. The United States is the worst affected country with 357,377 deaths from 21.05 million cases. After the U.S., the hardest hit countries are Brazil with 197,732 deaths, India 150,114, Mexico with 128,822, and Italy with 76,329 deaths. Europe overall has 596,360 deaths. Latin America and the Caribbean have 516,447 deaths. Asia 222,559. The Middle East 91,058, and Africa 68,741 deaths. Meanwhile, a hospital in Northern California quickly vaccinated 850 people after a freezer that was holding the Moderna COVID-19 vaccines failed, prompting officials to do an emergency distribution of the vaccines before they spoiled. By the time hospital officials realized the freezer had malfunctioned, they had 2.5 hours to distribute the vaccines, which have a shelf life of 12 hours at room temperature. Reassured Secretary Stephen Mnuchin arrived in Sudan today, the first visit by senior American officials since President Donald Trump removed the African country from the list of state sponsors of terrorism. The move was key incentives for the government in Khartoum to normalize relations with Israel, a part of U.S. President Donald Trump push for Arab countries to sign bilateral agreements with Israel. The two countries, Sudan and Israel, have agreed to have full diplomatic ties, making Sudan the third Arab state after the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain to move to normalize relations with Israel this year. Morocco also established diplomatic ties with Israel. Mnuchin is scheduled to meet with Sudan's leaders to discuss the country's struggling economy. Sudan is on a fragile path to democracy after a popular uprising led the military to overthrow Omar al-Bashir in April 2019. As the UK enters another national lockdown, staff at ZSL London Zoo have started their annual animal stock take following what they describe as probably the most challenging year in its 2-century history. London Zoo's Chief Operating Officer Catherine England said the zoo was shut down for over 18 weeks, costing them millions and millions of pounds. While the zoo has had its struggle over the last 12 months, England said there has been some amazing animals to add to the stock take. In 2020, 2 beautiful otter pups were born, and then later in September, Edie, a copy calf, and in December, Geisha from Denmark, a female Sumatran tiger, joined the male. There are around 18,000 animals are in the zoo. The annual stock take will take around a week to complete, and then once completed, the information is shared with other zoos around the world to help manage worldwide conservation breeding programs for endangered species. You're watching the Sultanate of Oman television, and now before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq issues a royal decree. The tax authority issues 3 executive decisions related to the implementation of the added value tax. And the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Water Resources signs an agreement to implement the Smart Agricultural Project. And with that, we do conclude this news bulletin brought to you live from this news center of the Sultanate of Oman Television. Thank you for joining us and good night.
في ظل الزيادة في عدد الإصابات بمرض كوفيد-19 في السلطنة، ولتسهيل التواصل ومتابعة المرضى ولرفع جودة العمل، فقد دشنت وزارة الصحة مؤخراً نظام تقصٍ وبائي قائماً على تقنية الذكاء الاصطناعي، والذي سيسهم في الحد من انتشار المرض، كما سيتيح لعامة الناس في المرحلة